On an evening of the 20th of January 2009, Katya Sinojeva came home from work. In her apartment, she found Maxim Glawatsky, her neighbor, and his friend Yuri Mamonov, who were watching television programs and enjoying food after having spent a wild night. The men offered Katya to try their culinary creation, a dish with potatoes and onions, golden brown and deliciously baked. While she enjoyed the exquisite taste of the dish, she could not imagine that this dinner was connected to a tragic event of the previous night. Maxim and Yuri concealed from her that a crime had been committed right here in the apartment, and the dish was prepared from the remains of their innocent victim. In the year 2009 in St. Petersburg, the cultural heart of Russia, a 16-year-old girl named Karina lived with her parents in modest circumstances. She attended the 11th grade and strived not only to learn excellently, but also found time after school to distribute flyers in order not to burden her family with financial requests. Love for art and literature occupied a special place in her heart. Karina dreamed of being accepted into Russia's renowned theater school and later making a career as an actress in America. To realize her ambitions, she immersed herself in studying the English language, actively participated in school life, and spent the earned money on attending theater performances to get closer to her dream. Karina's love for art inevitably led her to a passion for music, particularly rock music. With the opportunity to earn her own money, she became a regular visitor to rock concerts. At 16 years old, she met at one of these concerts the 19-year-old Maxim, the leader of the Petersburg band Sherry, which was known in certain circles. Maxim, a bright and eccentric personality, belonged to the Gothic scene, was popular with girls, and despite numerous short affairs, sought no serious relationship. Karina, strictly raised, could only offer him friendship, despite her secret infatuation. She let herself be inspired by Maxim, wrote poems for him, tried to imitate his style, and regarded him as her friend. The 19th of January 2009 was a completely normal day for Karina. In the morning, she went to school, returned home afterwards to eat something, and then went to work with a friend. In the evening, she arranged with her mother to spend the night at a friend's house, under the pretext of working on a history report on the computer, which she did not have at home. Although her mother did not like letting her daughter go, she agreed because she knew Karina's serious attitude towards school. Karina promised to return home the next morning at 7 o'clock to be ready for school on time. This night filled Nadia with an inexplicable feeling of unrest and the feeling of eternity. The absence of her daughter at home was unusual for her, and a tormenting premonition did not let her sleep. Only toward dawn did Nadia manage to fall asleep briefly, but the alarm clock rang soon and it was time to prepare for work. First, she went to Karina's room to check how her night was and whether she had prepared everything for school, but the girl was not there. Since Karina always kept her promises, Nadia immediately became aware of worries about possible accidents. Her husband, who returned from the night shift, immediately joined Nadia, and together they began calling friends and acquaintances of their daughter. They quickly contacted a friend at whose house Karina was supposed to spend the night, but she informed them that the girl had gone home right after homework. Without obtaining concrete information about Karina's whereabouts, the parents immediately went to the police. The police, however, just shrugged and answered indifferently, "Do you think your daughter is the first one not to come home? Just wait." Karina's parents could only wait, but she did not come back home. A few days after they informed the police, an active search operation began. Flyers with her photo were distributed everywhere in the city. Relatives and friends told everyone who could help about her, and rescue teams searched in every corner hoping to find her alive. 2 weeks later, a package with terrible contents was found on a wasteland in the Moscow district of St. Petersburg, about which I cannot speak on YouTube, but you can probably imagine. A few days later, another terrible discovery was made at another city dump, carefully wrapped in cellophane. A medical examination confirmed that these were the remains of a young girl who was the missing Karina. Over several weeks, her family, friends, police officers, and many concerned citizens searched for her in vain. Later, Karina's parents told that the medical examiner who determined the cause of death told them that he had seen many things in his professional years, but such astonishment as this time he had never experienced. The investigation revealed that the actions were carried out with knowledge of anatomy, which suggested that the perpetrator possibly had professional skills in handling meat. Unfortunately, I cannot describe cruel scenes on YouTube due to restrictions, but believe me, it was very bad. The investigators' interest was particularly aroused by the absence of some parts in the found package. The main questions revolved around where these parts could have disappeared and what the motives for their removal could have been. There were many assumptions about why this could have happened, but no one could suspect what truth they would finally discover. In an attempt to find new clues, the investigators began questioning friends and acquaintances of the girl again. And suddenly, a friend with whom she supposedly spent that evening changed her original statement. She confessed that after finishing homework on Epiphany evening, she had not gone home as previously assumed, but had gone with her to a meeting. While Karina was at her friend's place, her mobile phone received incessant calls from someone who seemed to be drunk. Soon, it turned out that it was Maxim, who was inviting her to a house party. Despite her friend's reluctance to go there because of different views with the group there, Karina decided, given the affection that the Glowatskis showed her, to join the event to support her friend. A participant of the party later told that after Karina's agreement, Maxim cheerfully announced, "The meat will come soon," without recognizing the seriousness of his words in that moment. Upon their arrival at the apartment where the party was already in full swing, the girls also joined the feast. Not even an hour passed when Maxim suggested to Karina that they retreat to the bathroom for a more personal conversation. The choice greatly displeased her friend, and Maxim appeared too strange to her. She tried to convince Karina to return home, but she did not heed her warnings and followed Maxim. Left alone, the friend decided to leave the party. When questioned by investigators, she later had difficulty explaining why she had not shared this information earlier. That evening, when Karina was busy, one of her friends who was also there took a call from Maxim. The friend promised that Karina would call back later, but Maxim threatened by saying that he would find her and deal with her. Probably this friend was afraid to speak with the police because of the threats from Maxim's drunk friends, out of fear of possible consequences. When the friend revealed new information, the investigators obtained a printout of calls from Karina's phone, which confirmed that she had last spoken with Maxim Glowatskich on the late evening of the 19th of January. After this call, no one could contact her anymore, and soon after her mobile phone was switched off. The investigation team made their way to the apartment where Karina was last seen alive. There they were, received by Ekaterina Sinovieva, the owner of the apartment where Maxim had rented a room. Maxim was not present at that time as he had returned to his homeland a few days earlier. Ekaterina confirmed the statements of Karina's friend. After Maxim's call and his announcement that meat would arrive soon, the girls remained together for a while longer. Then Maxim and Karina went to the bathroom, and after the friend left, Maxim told the others it was time to separate, as he and Karina wanted to be alone. After the party, only the apartment inhabitant and Maxim's best friend, Yura, remained. Why Yura stayed, the girl could not explain. Ekaterina, who longed for sleep before she had to go to work, went to bed. She remembered strange noises and the splashing of water from the bathroom in the middle of the night. When she tried to check what was happening, Yura stopped her and convinced her that the lovers were simply attending to their affairs. Unsuspecting, Katya returned to her bed. A later search of the apartment brought shocking details to light. Red stains were found under the bathtub, and in the freezer lay meat wrapped in cellophane bags, similar to what had been found previously. When Ekaterina saw the contents of the refrigerator, she became nauseated. She told that on the 20th, after returning from work, Maxim and Yura offered her meat with potatoes and onions. When asked where the meat came from, the boys only looked at each other and claimed they had bought it in the morning, cooked part of it, and stored the rest in the freezer. At that moment, Ekaterina did not doubt their words. Her story made even experienced investigators feel uncomfortable. Ekaterina also remembered that Maxim repeatedly spoke of his gruesome plans for Karina. I hope you understand which ones, as I cannot express this directly due to YouTube restrictions. But in these moments, like others who heard these threats, she took them as a joke and attached no importance to them. How wrong she was. A few days after the crime was committed in the city of Sosnovyy Bor, the 19-year-old Maxim Glawackich, who was suspected of the crime, was arrested by the police. His buddy, the 20-year-old Yuri Molchanov, was caught somewhat later in Kronstadt. When they realized that the investigators were on their trail, the boys left their homes and tried to flee, but were soon held accountable. During the investigations, it turned out that Glawackich had already come to the attention of authorities for threats against a relative and poor treatment of animals. But these cases were dropped. He was also treated in a psychiatric hospital for a mental disorder. It was established that Maxim had experience as a butcher, which explained his skill in handling the knife. In contrast to Glawackich, Molchanov had no dark past. Working as a florist, he was rather the subordinate figure in their duo, more a follower than Glawackich. When both suspects were imprisoned, they began to change their statements, which varied repeatedly over time. Each tried to free himself from guilt by claiming he had merely helped a friend cover up the traces without being directly involved in the crime. However, the investigators increasingly leaned toward the assumption that the crime was carefully planned and both perpetrators were involved in it. The plan envisioned that Glawackich would sneeze 3 times in the bathroom to give Molchanov the signal to begin. There were rumors that Glawackich intended that night to do something bad with Karina, about which I will not speak due to YouTube guidelines. Maxim, who was not accustomed to experiencing resistance, became angry when Karina fought back. He pushed her into the bathroom and gave Yuri the signal. At this moment, Yekaterina Sinojeva heard strange noises from the bathroom. Molchanov entered the room, and while Glawackich held Karina, they committed their crime. After they had committed the crime, the boys callously and methodically cut everything into pieces, packed the flesh into various bags and distributed them throughout the entire city, some in garbage cans, others in abandoned places. They hoped that wild animals would destroy the evidence before anyone could find them. After they had accomplished their grim deed, the criminals returned, cleaned the bathtub of traces, and went to sleep as if nothing had happened. In the morning, driven by hunger, they took a piece of meat from the freezer, seasoned it abundantly with spices to cover any suspicious smell, and prepared it with potatoes and onions. They later offered the same dish to a female friend. When asked about the motives for their actions, Maxim Glawackich explained they had simply been hungry, and there had been nothing to eat in the house. Furthermore, according to his words, they had always been curious about the taste of such meat. They decided not to throw away the girls' personal belongings. Some they used themselves, the rest they sold to acquaintances. In the court trial in May 2010, Yuri Mamonov and Maxim Glawackich were convicted as defendants. Both were found guilty of the crime and sentenced to 18 and 19 years of imprisonment, respectively. The court also decided that they must pay the girls' parents 1 million rubles for emotional pain and 21,000 rubles as compensation for material damage. The victims' relatives were dissatisfied with the verdict and believed the perpetrators deserved life imprisonment. Instead of showing sincere remorse and trying to make amends for his guilt toward the girls' family, Maxim Glawackich continued his contempt for their suffering by describing in detail how they prepared meat and ate it with appetite when they were hungry. But the trials for Karina's family were not over with this. After the verdict, Glawackich began filing appeals and raising counter-lawsuits against Karina's mother, accusing her of having discredited his honor and dignity. He could not win any of these processes, despite the exposure of the crime and the punishment of the guilty parties. Karina's fate remained present in the media for a long time, accompanied by sensational headlines. However, her relatives firmly rejected any assumptions about her belonging to informal groups, emphasizing that she had only admired her idol In internet forums, it was speculated that the crime might have a ritual character, given Glawackie's possible connection to the Gothic subculture and the date of the crime, on Epiphany, which did not seem coincidental to many. However, the official investigation declared this to be coincidence. Yuri Molchanov, who served his sentence in a strict regime penal colony in the Arkhangelsk region, was quickly forgotten by the friends who had supported him during the trial. After more than 9 years behind bars, he unsuccessfully tried to achieve a transfer to a colony with milder conditions, and then a review of the verdict with hope for a conversion of the sentence to forced labor, hoping for conditional early release. But given the severity of the crimes committed, his applications were rejected. In prison, Maxim Glawackie's life took a particular turn. He founded a rock band that covered well-known hits at celebrations. Videos of their performances on social networks showed that the prison administration supported his hobby, and fans of the former band Shire continued to remember him by sending letters and packages as support. In prison, Maxim also married Diana, a girl who had been his fan even before his arrest and actively supported him. On the night from the 24th to the 25th of March, Maxim left life, leaving behind a farewell letter about rebirth. But friends and relatives refused to believe that he had left voluntarily, as he had dreamed of imminent release. In memory of Glawacki, Tatjana Bashanoa made the documentary film The Sherry Case in 2018, which raised doubts about the official version of events. In the following 2 years, the Sherry Fest took place in Moscow, which attracted fans of the Gothic subculture and young rock musicians. Maxim Glawacki and his accomplice, Yuri Mamono, caused immeasurable damage to many fates, including Karina's family. Her mother could not overcome the loss for a long time and spent 3 months in treatment for neuroses, which however brought her no significant relief. Although the court passed a verdict, many considered it too mild. But there exists the belief in the presence of divine justice, where every criminal gets what he deserves.